Greetings and salutations, this is Huge Ass, the biggest YouTuber ever, coming to you live from my underpants. I really should buy some more clothes, but the shop was out of circus tents. Tonight, we're going to have a look at Flat Earth bad ideas. I recently did a video for Mr. Sensible, and we came up with the top 5 bad Flurf ideas as voted by people on my community page. And yeah, it went over quite well. I had several thousand views. And I thought, who better to discuss this with me than a former Flat Earther himself from the channel Flurfspective, Ranty.
Hey, oh God.
How's that for an intro?
Yeah, it's a great intro, but I mean, having to look through this derp again, I mean.
Well, you get to laugh at it this time, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, just we'll talk more about your journey later, I guess, but I want to get straight into the bad ideas. Hang on. This is the one thing I didn't set up beforehand. Damn it, I hate it, and it's at the beginning of the stream. Isn't that annoying? All right, let's share my screen. And like I said, it's been a while since I've done this, so that's it. There we go. So the top 5 bad Flat Earth, top 5 Flat Earth bad ideas. These are the ones I covered in my video. Planes must tip their noses, can't go to Antarctica, large bodies of water do not curve. I wonder who said that. Water can't stick to a ball, and my favorite, it looks flat, so it must be flat. They were all ideas that you've thought of at some point, Ranty, I'm sure.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, if you look at the number 1, essentially, you know, that was my whole ethos being in the Flat Earth.
And the fact that you looked at that mountains from that picture that Bev got to you, that basically proved that wasn't true, wasn't it?
That's right. That was a very distressing moment, actually, when I saw that image from Mr. Jackson on Twitter. That I just couldn't believe that what it was showing me, which was that there was definite curve between Blackpool Tower and the mountains behind it, because, you know, that didn't match what I'd been viewing down at the beach. In fact, the only way it matched was if it was dropping, and then when I was at the beach and filming those shore-to-shore observations, that was refraction. That's the only time that it matched. And you know, trying to come to terms with that after 5 years of being a flat earther and kind of like just living off that number one proof. You know, it looks flat. You know, or it looks flat, so it must be flat. You know, that was a hard pill to swallow, because, you know, it kind of destroyed 5 years of beliefs.
Yeah,
5 years of beliefs gone down the drain. But listen, it brought me out of the flat Earth, which, now looking back, you know, I mean, I can able to say, look, do you know what, that was a blessing, actually. Yeah,
we're all impressed that you had the integrity to take the data as it is from reality and make your conclusions based on that, because a lot of flat earthers don't do that. You give them all the evidence they could possibly want, and they still stick to what they want, which is fine. It's human, but, you know, it's not reality, is it?
Well, let's not forget that, you know, I mean, I was seeing wind turbines 3/4 hidden by water and still trying to explain it as a flat earther. So, you know, I can't use that as an excuse, because I was actually being presented with proof of a globe. You know, hey, look at these wind turbines out to sea, and 3/4 of them are hidden behind Earth curve. But you just kind of ignore those as a flat earther. You know, you try and explain them away. For me, I only needed proof locally, so I didn't really care about the wind turbines out to sea in, you know, I don't know, let's say Norway, off the coast of Norway or something. I didn't really care about that. You know, it was just my location. So, yeah, flat earthers get presented these all the time, and we just hand wave them away. We say, yeah, okay, right, now let's just go back, you know, like Spurs chemo does, you know. Let's just go back to where we were. You know, forget that we saw that, you know. Yeah, that's what flat earthers do. That's what I did. So yeah. I don't know if there's a proof that you can bring out for an individual person and say this is going to fit every single flat earther out there, because it won't. You know, I mean, the observation of Blackpool for me was what I needed. And let's say that turned 10 flat earthers back to being globe earthers. It's quite possible, you know. But there's still however many out there that need their own proofs. They need to see something for them that will satisfy their, you know, that will break the spell for them. So, you know.
Yeah, I imagine that it's like that for psychology. For regardless of the issue, people have to want to change. It sounds like a social worker's creed, but if people don't want to change, then they're not going to, and it doesn't matter what evidence is or anything like that. They'll stick with their own little psychological bubble, and that works for them. And in a lot of ways, that's a good thing because it's usually not harmful, but then you look at things like 5G nutters and anti-vaxxers and things like that, and you're not quite sure that it's so harmless after all. But anyway, I didn't want to get into heavy things at the beginning. I wanted to try and have a bit of fun with you first, not fun at your expense, but in fact, this next one's fun at my expense, and it's based on video you did with FTFD during the week. So let's have a look at that.
Well, I think at this point I'd have sex with Jabba the Hutt. So yeah.
Well, plenty of folds, I imagine. Lots of things to do. Oh. But okay, that always got me though about Jabba the Hutt. You know, he had all those girls on chains with sexy bikinis in. Were those girls also forced to wait? Okay, how did we go from talking about Riley grooming kids to having sex with Jabba the Hutt? What has happened?
Beaver, motherfucker.
Jason Hyatt for $5 Canadian says, because sex with Jabba is less disturbing than Riley. Are you saying sex with Jabba is less disturbing than sex with Riley? I mean, I imagine, yeah. I don't want to think of either of those things, but Roby for $5 says you may not.
So good.
Says you may not like it, but Jabba the Hutt is what peak sex appeal looks like.
Hell yeah. I'm all over that shit, mate.
I think Ranty just needs to sell some merch that says "I do Jabba."
I do Jabba. Yeah.
Hi, Ranty. Yes, the similarities between me and Jabba the Hutt are quite stark, aren't they?
Yes, I mean I have to say, you know, but you're just not alien enough for me. What can I say?
Yes, I'm not your type.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you were more alien, then maybe, you know.
Yeah.
But it was hilarious. That was a really funny stream, and he's like, Fight said, you know, how did we get to this conversation? Well, I'm sorry, but that's generally what happens when I get into a let's just have a free for all talk. We always end up going down that shitty route, which is good.
Oh, it was great fun. That stream was great fun. And
my sense of humor, you know, sort of like takes us that way because I am a bit of a child.
Yes, there was another stream. The stream when you the FDFE interview with a ex-Flat Earther stream. That one, and I sent you a super chat, and I asked you, did Anthony Riley smell? And what was your answer?
He does smell very badly, actually. He I mean, you know, we went to St. Bees. Me and my ex-girlfriend went with to St. Bees to meet up with him and his ex-girlfriend, and we stayed in his caravan. And he never washed, he never changed, he never, you know, he wore the same socks for like 4 days straight. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, the guy stung. He really did. I mean, I'm not just saying that because he's a flat earther or, you know, we've had beef in the past. If he smelled like flowers, I would say he smelled like flowers, but genuinely he didn't. He smelled really bad.
Hence ex-girlfriend, I suspect.
Yeah, probably.
Yes. Anyway, let's move on to the bad flurf ideas. So of those top 5 that I showed you, number 5 was planes need to dip their noses. And Wolfie C20 provided me with a video to show you.
Well, can I answer that? Well, sure. You know, I mean, I was never this, you know, with the dip in the nose kind of thing. You know, to me, it was always to do with the amount of thrust versus the you know, the altitude and the air pressure, you know, so it keeps it constant. So as you go around the globe, you know, you've got this thrust amount which keeps you at a certain elevation. As soon as you start to drop, you know, as soon as as long as you keep the thrust at the same amount, you'll stay at the same height. You don't need, you know, it automatically takes you around the globe. You don't need to keep dipping the nose. You know, it's all
that's right. Yeah, you're maintaining an altitude, so it's not really at any one point in time. It effectively is flat because, you know, it's only a short distance before it even starts curving at all, or any noticeably curve. But over a long distance, like over an ocean, you need to take that into account because the curve will come into it. Wolfie goes into that. The chat are complaining I'm not giving them any love, so I better give them some love. Who have we got in here? Second best, Bob. Okay, I'm not going to go into asking Ranty difficult questions, I think. So Skizkratz is here. Golden Skeptic's here. Just call me Abby. How do you feel, Ranty, now that you've come around? Disappointed, happy, satisfied? He's curious.
Originally I was depressed, I have to say. Shocked, depressed. Then I went into a stage of being disappointed in myself. And then when I actually, you know, addressed all of those, I thought, you know what, I need to bring this to the community. So it was about 2 months later when I brought it to the community with Conspiracy Cats. And at that point, I actually felt excited and happy that I was able to bring that to the community. And then after bringing it to the community and seeing that nobody on Flat Earth watched it, right? Nobody watched that. Nobody watched it. Nobody saw why I left Flat Earth and the Flat Earth hierarchy just, you know, basically made shit up about that observation and totally derailed my points and Conspiracy Cat's points and Ruhif's points, to the point where it was no longer somehow a globe proof. It was actually a flat earth proof. And at that point, I got very angry, you know, and because I felt like I deserved a little bit more respect from the community, you know.
For all you've done, yeah.
Yeah. And the fact
because you were a very popular show.
Yeah.
That you gave over to Brandon.
Yes, I did. And I believe, you know, in the last month or so before I gave the reins over to Brandon, my show was pulling in 280 live viewers. That was about the average.
Yeah.
Which was
10 times what I got now.
Indeed. And it was trashing Nathan Oakley's, it was trashing Jose's. In fact, you could have added them together and it would have got nowhere close. I think Nathan was pulling in about 160. So, you know, to actually see how far that's fallen now. I watched it last night. He had, I think the most he had at any one point was like 72 people watching. That would, you know, it's like that's 4 times less.
Yeah.
Than when I was doing it. But that's because he's changed it into a flat Earth debate. You know, he's gone total flat earther on it.
I wouldn't use debate in that context. I call it more an idiots convention. They just get together and slap each other on the back about what idiots they are. That's the way it comes across. Whereas when you were there, you wanted to hear from people like Ruhif and Where's Wally and things like that. You didn't pay any attention to them, but you wanted to hear from them at least.
Yeah, I wanted their side of the argument heard in full with no interruptions, nobody being twats to them. That's why I had Jem Panda on doing his moon landing stuff. I think he was the first roundtable show. But even on the debate side of things, I just wanted a very level playing field for everybody to express their opinion, and we achieved that. You know, that was what was achieved on the channel. I was very proud of it when I gave it to Brandon because I thought he would actually continue that growth. Because when I started off, sure, I had a little bump because I already had about 2,500 subs. So, you know, I had people watching about 50 or something. So actually to grow from 50 to 280, and then see that trajectory, it was going up and up and up, and then handing the reins over to Brandon. Initially, I expected it to be for a short time, just to hold the fort whilst I, you know, got over some private issues and health issues and all that kind of stuff, and expected to come back at some point. But then, when I actually gave it over to him fully, it's just nosedived. The whole thing's just nosedived. He's taken it in a different direction. He doesn't put the time in. He doesn't do it every single night. He doesn't do it for 4 hours. He only does the fights, Friday fights, the Monday mayhem, it's literally no control over the moderation. So he basically fires up the show, and then he sits back and he doesn't say anything. He just lets people talk and fight and argue and scream and shout. That's not how I did it. I was there for 4 hours straight, moderating it the whole time. I think he's working at the same time, so he just lets it run riot. Well, that's no way to. I mean, he's literally run it into the ground, and that channel had such potential if it had just carried on the way it was, but he let it go to the dogs.
You said it had 280 when you were there, and it's got down to about 60. I reckon the difference was the Globe people who watched it, because I kept watching Brandon for a while, but the moderators were just, you couldn't post anything. They just block you. Bob blocked me for asking him a question about, what's. Can you show me a video of the ice wall? And he just refused to answer because he can't, of course. And then he blocked me, and I thought, what? If you can't ask questions here, then what's the point of being here?
Yeah, I mean, Bob. I think 2 separate times when I was doing that show, Bob Nodell got in touch and said, "Hey, can you give me moderator status there?" And I thought, okay, that seems all right. If he's willing to participate in the chat. Then I saw him blocking people, and then the next day, his moderator status was gone, and those people that he'd blocked had been unblocked by me. And then I was having messages from Bob. How come you've taken a moderator status away? And I'm like, well, you just can't just because you feel offended. It's my fucking show. Yeah. You behave the way I want you to behave. And I didn't have that kind of like, I wasn't looking up to him with starry eyes like probably a lot of people would do. I just saw him as a normal person, and he deserved no more respect than the person in the chat that typed something to him and saying 15 degree per hour drift. He was literally on the same level as them,
Yeah. He was, and that's just basically censorship. That's a word. I was going to say propaganda, but it's not quite. It's the other way.
Well, that's what I didn't allow on my show. I didn't allow the censorship. I did not allow that. If a moderator got out of hand, the moderator status was just more like a trophy. I didn't want them to use it. It was more like I give you moderator status, but it's just so that you're blue.
Yeah, don't give you respect, sort of thing.
Yeah. And when people started abusing it, I removed it from them. In fact, there was a couple of times that I just took all the moderator status of everybody, so that everybody felt like they all was on the same playing field. But then, you started seeing the doxing attempts in the chat and stuff like that. So then I realized I did need to have some moderator status, but it was just a balancing act. Yeah, it was a balancing act. And I think I handled it all right. I think with Brandon, he just didn't have that nous about how to actually go about, handling a show that was that popular, and he's just run it into the ground. So
I want to ask you later why you chose Brandon, but I'd like to keep going because I need to get in these videos. But what's been asked a few times is, what do you think about Sandy Hook?
Well, I've only ever seen one side of the argument from that. A bit like what you said when you first started the show about different conspiracies can lead down different conspiracy routes. And if you look at the way YouTube was from its early inception all the way up to just a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, all you ever got, if you watched a cat video, the next thing you're just being inundated with cat videos. The same was, with conspiracies. So they never gave the mainstream argument against a conspiracy. So if you started watching like Alex Jones, the next thing you'd be getting more info wars and stuff like that, and all the alt media kind of stuff, and all the radicals and all the conspiracy theories, and they would all come flooding to you. So I changed, when was it? I changed my position on flat Earth in February, announced it in April. I believe that's about right, something like that. Or the image popped up in February, and it was about April when I released the video. So to be fair, I mean, I haven't had much time to revisit a lot of the other stuff. What's my opinion? Well, knowing that conspiracy nutcases and seeing how damaging it is, and how it only takes 2 or 3 people to make a narrative about a story to change it from the mainstream. And that's what a lot of people fall down that well. You know, there are some convincing people out there with non-provable arguments. So probably a lot of the things that I thought were true about Sandy Hook were not actually true. You know, that's the thing. But I haven't seen a video that's debunked it. So I would believe on the basis of knowing where Flat Earth went and all these conspiracies that I was actually wrong for believing in that, for believing in the Sandy Hook hoax. But, you know, I'm still yet to see a video that actually shows me where I went wrong, if you know what I mean. I can believe that I was wrong without actually having seen the evidence for it, because I haven't had time.
Yeah. So, you feel you don't have, before you thought it was okay to believe one side of the story, and now you believe that you can't hold a have an intellectual integrity by only looking at one side, is what you're saying, I guess, if I can put words in your mouth.
Pretty much. I think I will get around to watching the mainstream narrative about it, and how they debunk the debunkers, right? Because it just, you know, because as I say, a lot's happened this year. I changed position, came out in April. I spent 3 or 4 weeks going around doing the rounds, telling people that, you know, this proves that the flat Earth is wrong. Then I set my new channel up. Then all I've been doing is debunking flat Earth, you know. So I've not had time to revisit the other conspiracies, because, you know, when you're in the flat Earth, and even before then, you know, that build up, you're talking 8-9 years of being brainwashed with all these conspiracies. If I was to watch every debunk of every video I ever watched, I'd be here for another 8 years, you know. Yeah. So I've got to be realistic and say that I will get around to all these other conspiracies, because that's what my channel is going to be going down. You know, at the end of the day, it's going to be tackling all these other conspiracies, not just flat Earth. And the person that's going to do that, or the skit, let's say, the skit that's going to do that, is the ranty persona. So the ranty persona will be going down those conspiracy routes, and the Flurspective persona will be bringing him back, you know, like a twin brother. You know, Ranty's my twin, I'm Flurspective, two sides of the coin. One's a flat Earth conspiracy nutcase, and one's a debunking globe earther. So Ranty can go down those routes, and he can reinvestigate those things, because I want to actually deconstruct them and show people where they were wrong. So, you know, I think it's going to be about another week.
I think it'll be very valuable, yeah.
Yeah, in another week, that'll be my last job that I do as a painter and decorator, because of my health. So I need to stop that. And then I'm going to concentrate just on YouTube. So I'm going to try and get a video out, at least. I'm hoping to get one out every day, and with a different format each day. So one of those is going to be that ranty persona, which will mean that I will then have to delve into those conspiracies. So I will be talking about them on the channel, you know, so it won't just be the flat Earth that's brought up. You know, there will be other conspiracies that I look at. So there'll be the chemtrails, you know, sorry, excuse me, I just got a bit wind then. There'll be the chemtrails that come up and all that kind of stuff, and Hollow Earth. And I don't know, maybe even look at the Kennedy assassination, and who knows, you know, it might even turn out that was real. You know, but
well, he was assassinated, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you can look at the conspiracy side of things. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to give the conspiracy side of things and the alternative argument, which means I need to research them. from a new perspective. Because, as a conspiracy nutcase, you only look at the conspiracy nutcases. You don't look at you don't look at the other argument. And I still haven't looked at the other argument. Do you know what I mean? I've not looked at, but I will do.
I'm glad you want to.
Yes. Yeah. So, because the whole thing about the flat earth is that it's a gateway into other conspiracies, but, and that's the main thing. It's like, there's a gateway to other conspiracies, and the amount of effects and problems that causes to people in the real life, to the families, to the health, to the mental health, all that kind of stuff, it really does affect them. So if I can save, I don't know, if just a handful of people each year, from going down that rabbit hole by taking the piss out of myself and by showing them where they, were misled, then that's a win for me.
Yeah, a win for everyone, really, for them as well. I have a question that Golden Skeptic wants me to ask you. Do you still hate him? And if you say no, he'll Skype you again.
I as daft as it sounds, and I know that I spoke to Golden Skeptic a couple of weeks ago briefly, but I really don't remember this conversation or this argument or whoever. Obviously I've made a great impression on him because I think he was talking about that too to me. But to be fair, I fell out with so many people as a flat earther, including a lot of flat earthers, because I didn't believe that I liked the way that they actually went about doing the way that they handled the channels, the way they spoke to people, how they gave biases to the flat earthers over the globe earthers. I was arguing with everybody. I wasn't just arguing with the globe earthers as a flat earther. I was arguing with the flat earthers too. So, I'm sorry that I don't recall 100%, maybe even 10%. I don't recall what we argued about. So I don't know. I guess we're all right, I suppose. I really can't say any more than that.
Yes, I'll take that as you don't hate him anymore.
I don't really hate anybody. No. I just want them to if I was a flat earther, my advice to them would be step away from flat earth for an entire month. Just walk away. Don't turn on your phone. Don't investigate flat earth for an entire month, right? Just go about your normal day. Just talk to people, go out, socialize, and then when you want to try and get back into it, well, actually, you probably won't even do that, because within probably 2 weeks, you'll enjoy it. Your mind will be just like, oh God, yeah, just not thinking about this. It's great, and you won't want to go back to flat earth. And then you'll start to see the truth.
Hopefully, anyway.
So
speaking of the truth,
go on.
Yeah. Go on. No, well, speaking of the truth, we have this video from Wolfie6020 about, he's a pilot, of course, and it's talking about why planes don't fly off in space, as Flurf's bad idea tells us that it should. So I'll play that now.
Hi, Hugh, and thanks for the opportunity to contribute to your channel. The topic I'm going to look at is the flat earth claim that planes would fly off into space if they didn't keep dipping the nose. Now, firstly, an aeroplane needs air to fly, and it's not just to develop lift on the wings, it is to produce thrust from the engines. Now, an aircraft requires a specific amount of thrust just to fly level. If it has excess thrust, then it can climb. If it no longer has excess thrust, it cannot climb. Let's look at some numbers. Assume this aircraft is at maximum takeoff weight, so it's full of fuel. It could climb to an altitude where the thrust being produced by the engines matches the thrust required to fly level. Now, as we go higher, the thrust from the engines reduces because the air is thinner, and also the amount of lift on the wings reduces. Let's say this aeroplane weighs 10 tons and it requires 20,000 pounds of thrust just to fly level. It will climb at any point where there is surplus thrust available from the engines. Once that thrust has reduced to 20,000 pounds, where you cannot get any more thrust because the air is too thin, the aeroplane cannot climb any higher. Now, this is one reason why long-range aircraft generally start cruising at a lower altitude. As the fuel is consumed and the aircraft weight becomes lighter, they can then step climb to a higher and more efficient altitude. The bottom line is that the aeroplane cannot in any way, shape or form fly off into space. The aircraft that I fly is rated to 51,000 feet. Now, we cannot get that high with a full load of fuel. We need to spend at least 8 to 10 hours of cruising to burn off sufficient fuel to be light enough to climb to that 51,000 feet for the remaining 4 hours of the trip. At 51,000 feet, even if I tried with full throttle and I pulled the nose up, I might get an additional 2,000 to 3,000 feet out of the aircraft, but then it will simply run out of thrust. And if I continue trying to go higher, the airplane is going to stall. And that means you're not generating enough lift on the wings to sustain the weight of the aircraft, and it will drop. So there is absolutely no way an aircraft can fly off into space. We climb until we have insufficient thrust to climb further, at which point we could fly level. If we attempt to climb at that point, we're going to run out of speed and the aircraft will stall and the nose will drop automatically. The flat Earth claim that aeroplanes could fly off into space is absolutely ridiculous, and it demonstrates a lack of understanding of aerodynamics.
All right. So that basically confirms what you were saying earlier, Ranty, about what happens with planes.
Yeah, the idea that, I mean, the way they set the model up is that they show a plane on the top of the ball, and then they have it flying out horizontal, and then it just shoots off into space, right? That's what their claim is. The problem is that, you know, the problem is like Wolfie's just explained there, the horizontal line will take you through less and less atmosphere around the globe. So you wouldn't be able to generate the thrust to actually break through that, you know, that you wouldn't be able to generate the thrust to leave the atmosphere. You wouldn't be able to do that.
Because you need the atmosphere to generate the thrust. So.
Yes. And then what would happen is, instead of going horizontal, you'd start to curve around the globe because you can't escape it, because you can't get into, you know, you can't make it past that really, you know, light atmosphere. You can't break through it. So you'll just end up going around the globe without ever dipping your nose. You know, you don't actually have to physically dip your nose because the engine and the plane actually just do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and at any one point in time, you've got to think of it. If you've never done trigonometry, not trigonometry, differentiation, you don't get this concept that you can split it up into tiny little pieces. So the plane travels 1,000 kilometers. You can split it up into centimeters if you want, and it's going down just a tiny little bit each centimeter. And of course, over the distance of 1,000 kilometers, it's curved whatever the drop is over 1,000 kilometers. But all it has to do at any point in time is maintain its altitude above sea level, and it'll follow the curve of the Earth. It doesn't have to consciously dip its nose. It'll just has to maintain altitude. But it's a concept too difficult, it seems, for some people to understand.
Well, what they've done is they've balanced the flat Earth atmosphere on top of the globe. That's what they've done. So when it flies off from the top of the globe, it's just flying in a straight line through nice low atmosphere, as in the flat Earth model, and just straight out into space, right? So they're not actually conceptualizing the fact that, you know, if you go straight from the top of the globe, as you go out further in that direction, you know, you are going to encounter less atmosphere, which means that you're going to lose altitude and then just curve around the globe. But they stick the flat Earth atmosphere on top of the globe so that you can actually exit the globe.
Yeah, I guess so. They mix up the models. They think of the reality from their point of view, which is where they go wrong. So
yeah, and then they stick it on the globe and think that the plane will just fly off in a straight line, because they've stuck their atmospheric model on top of the globe model. This is so fucking retarded.
Yes. Well, yes. All right. So I'm about to show the next video. Let's skip. Oops. Damn it. No, not that one. Damn it. I need three screens. That's the problem.
One. No, not that one. The other one.
Yes. Now I've lost. Oh, that's one. Share screen.
No, this one.
Audio, that one. Now I've got to find which video it was. Right. So this is from Critical Think, who I'm sure you're aware, who you once said F off to, quite famously.
Yeah, Critical Think can fuck the fuck off.
That's right. But here he's talking about bringing boats back over the horizon with Zoom.
Right.
So
okay.
let's have a look.
Here we go. Here we go.
You could watch the boat disappear with your naked eye, and then you could pull up this camera and you could zoom in on the boat that you just watched disappear. And you could bring it right back into full view.
No, that boat's just not over the curve. That's not a boat. Now that's a boat. Let's wait for this boat to sail out of sight. Now we'll zoom in and bring it back. Oh dear. This one didn't come back. Let's try another. Wait. Oh, no, not that one either. How about another one? Third time lucky? Oh dear. Nope. Looks like flat earthers need some lessons in identifying boats.
There he is. Yeah. So that's pretty convincing evidence, I would have thought. When you were a flat earther, and you saw something like that, what did you think?
Well, first and foremost, let me just tell you that Mark Sargent used to run around telling people that on daytime TV and newspaper articles and documentaries, wherever he could be promoted, basically. And he would say that you just bring out your camera and you zoom in, and guess what? You can bring it back. The bigger the camera, the more, obviously, the further you can see. So if you've got a P900, great. P1000, great. You know, you can see further. You'll always bring it back. Suddenly, something that's not there, you can bring it back. Now, on occasion, that's true, right? On occasion, that's true. That with the naked eye, you can't see something out to see, and then you actually get your camera out, and actually you can see something. But for the 99 times out of 100, there will always come a point where that boat disappears. Right? You know, in fact, for the 100 times out of 100, that boat will disappear. Now, how it disappears is in lots of different ways. Critical Think has shown a couple of observations there where the boats are clearly behind water, right? Whereas I've only ever observed them, disappear into what you could class as an inferior mirage. Now, I am going to say that I've also reevaluated that argument too. And I want to go back to a point in time, some years ago now, where the globe earthers were saying that the actual image that you saw at the horizon with the boat disappearing was a reflection off the horizon, a reflection off the curvature of the earth. And the trouble is that kind of reflection is identical to an inferior mirage. Now, my research showed that you could have numerous observations, and I had them on my channel, hundreds of observations of things really close but had an inferior mirage on them, or a boat that was just 5 miles away and I'm at an elevation of 30 feet and half of the boat is hidden by an inferior mirage. Now that's impossible, for Earth curvature. So the inferior mirage can definitely hide things. But
yes,
but my contention was always, it was an inner contention, that where they said, if I knew where that boat was at that particular time, which I often did because I was track it would always fall into that what's being missing, including in the inferior mirage, it, you know, matches up to Earth curvature. And I would always say that, oh yeah, they bastardized the inferior mirage as being Earth curvature, and that's how they figured it out. But I think I was just mistaken, because I know the Globe Earth has turned around and conceded the point, including one person, a few other people, that this reflection at the horizon, which creates an inferior mirage look-alike, right? I was able to convince them that, do you know what, that's an inferior mirage and I can prove this. And they conceded that, you know, what you see of that that boat isn't Earth curvature. But I think I was wrong. You know, I think we are actually seeing the reflection at the midpoint of the, you know, of where the horizon is. And it's just we've mistaken it for an inferior mirage because it looks so similar. But anyway, as I say, so me personally, when I've done these observations, I've always seen a boat go into an inferior mirage, right? Or a reflection, you know. And I always classed it as an inferior mirage, but it was likely a reflection off the horizon. So yeah, I mean, I think in different locations you see different things, you know, and you can explain some of them from different elevations. You know, if you were down at 6 feet and you had you know, a bit of swell out to sea or a bit of shoaling effect, then you could also argue that that's what's hiding the boat. But once you get to like an elevation of 35 or 40 feet and you're seeing that same thing with a physical body of water hiding a boat, you know, that argument becomes null and void, because, you know, you don't have those sort of humps, you know, on a flat plane. You can get it. You could argue it from lower down, you know, fluid dynamics. Yeah, you could argue it from lower down. But once you get to those 35, 40 feet, you know, then it gets really difficult to argue that. So I think Critical Think's first observation on that 1 minute 10 video that he just put out, I think that first one shows an elevation of about 30 feet. But the second one is much lower down. The second one, I would say, is only about 10 feet off the water. So the second one, you could argue, you know, would be behind some kind of fluid dynamic water, you know, as a flat earther, you could argue that. But the first one will be a lot harder to argue because he was much higher.
Yeah, and there's less refraction the higher up you go too.
Yeah, and there was no refraction. There was no actual refraction on either of those. There were very clear images, you know.
Yeah, there's always refraction, but yeah, there wasn't any significant refraction.
Yeah.
I've got a super chat from Second Best Bob for £5, which is very generous. Thank you very much. Flat Earth is harmless. It's the other stuff that worries me. Is Ranty for vaccines?
I haven't personally had the vaccine, but that's not because that I don't believe that there's a virus around, right? So let me go back to I think it was February last year. If you look back on Brandon's channel, you'll actually see that I actually brought some guy in who claimed to be an ex-Freemason, and you know, he was like a journalist, you know, and he was out in the fact that, you know, the virus had sprung from this Wuhan laboratory, right? And funnily enough, this week, you know, guess what? It's all over the news again that it's come from this bloody laboratory, right? So way back before anybody was even talking about it, really, I had this guy on my channel and I was bringing it to the attention of everybody and saying, this thing's real, it's killing people, you know, you need to be prepared for what's coming down, the lockdown, all this kind of stuff. So I was at odds with everyone on Flat Earth then, because every other flat earther out there said that this is just a hoax. It's not real. There is no virus, blah, 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 right? And I was adamant that it was true, that, you know, people needed to be prepared. They needed to, you know, prepare for extended stays in the home.
Stockpile toilet paper.
Stockpiling toilet paper, yes. Well, you know, you obviously know. You know what I was doing. I was going out of my way to go against the grain with every single flat earther, because the default position of a flat earther is to, you know, assume that everything is a hoax. Yeah, and I wasn't prepared to do that because I had credible information that it was true. I actually did the research and found out that people were actually dying in Wuhan, right? So I was actually very aware of this. So unlike the rest of them that just hand wave dismissed it, I was proactive in trying to tell people that this is a real thing. And so obviously that set me against everybody, including Sleeping Warrior. But besides that, as for the jab and stuff, well,
shame being against Sleeping Warrior.
Well, I've not had the jab only because I remember that there's some kind of protocol in place that there needed to be so many years of testing, and I don't believe that the testing has been thorough enough, and the long-term benefits have been, or non-benefits have been investigated as yet. I think it's been rushed, and I'd still say that that I feel
it's definitely been rushed. But I think that the payoff for that is, there are hundreds of thousands of people alive now that wouldn't have been otherwise.
Possibly, but when my mum died in December of last year, she had motor neurone disease, and I was a carer for years. Also was a painter and decorator, and also running the Flat Earth channel. So yeah, I get that. I was actually doing about 30 hours a week caring for my mother, and she had motor neuron disease, so she couldn't do anything for herself. And it was a very long out and drawn out death, because normally people would die within 12 months to 18 months after diagnosis. She lasted for 8 years. So yeah. It was a very long journey for her. And when she finally passed away, she only weighed 3.5 stone, right? She was skin and bones, there was nothing to her. She hadn't been out of that shit.
Kilos?
I don't even. Somebody look that up. It's very light anyway. 35
7 kilos from memory. So yeah,
it's not a lot. 3.5 stone. Anyway, so when the nurse came around to actually sign off her death, she wanted to sign her off as a COVID death. And for about 5 minutes, I was arguing with her, saying she didn't have COVID. Did she have a cough? No. Did she have a sneeze? No. Was she wheezing? No. Are you sure this? Are you sure that? Are you sure the other? Blah, blah, blah. Are you sure it wasn't COVID? Blah, blah, blah. For about 5 minutes. In the end, I had to turn around and say, look, I'm not being funny, but she had motor neuron disease. We're not ill. She wasn't ill. It was not a COVID death. And then she went, right, okay.
Yeah, there was certainly an incentive for some hospitals for funding to record as many COVID deaths as possible. 3.5 stone is just over 22 kilos. That's frighteningly little. I've had meals bigger than that.
Yeah, she was skin and bones, and they wanted to sign her off as a COVID death. So, when I saw that firsthand, and then I saw all these numbers coming out, and then I saw all these other reports of people, genuine people saying, look, they were pressurizing me to say that it was a COVID death too, and I just accepted it, and then retracting it later. So I do believe that there was a lot of that going on, But
one thing with conspiracy nutters, I think, is that they assume if there's one bad thing, then all of it's bad. There's no way, especially in this situation where there's a whole lot of political power, not power, but pressure to do certain things, both from governments and from the people, that they're going to get things wrong. And there's going to be people who take advantage of the situation. And it happens every single time, no matter what happens. Like climate change is another one. Our government here in Australia had this, what we ended up calling the home incineration scheme, where every home was entitled to free insulation to reduce energy consumption and things like that. And so many, if you give away free money, people are shysters are going to come in and do it badly. And they did it badly, and houses burned down because they sort of stapled electricity through the insulation and things like that. And there was 200 homes burned down. So it was government incompetence, that's for sure. They should have put in measures to make sure that those sort of things didn't happen, and only people who are trained were doing it properly and things like that. But a lot of it is just purely incompetence. If you've got a choice between conspiracy and incompetence, always go with incompetence. But you also can't say, okay, I've seen one bad thing about this, so the whole lot is bad. No, it doesn't work that way. People are fallible. They make mistakes. You're going to see some shitty stuff. That doesn't mean the rest of it is shitty as well.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I would agree with that. However, as well, I also want to say that during, you know, that time period, you know, leading up to my mum's death, you know, I was still a flat earther, and I know of 2 people personally who died as well. You know, well,
Okay.
I didn't know them personally. I knew their son or daughter personally, and it was their mother and father that died. Right, so they both died, and they died of, you know, I think one of them died of cancer. The other one died of, what did the other one die of? I can't even remember now. But it was basically, you know, there was illnesses that it wasn't COVID, and they too were super pressured into trying to sign off as a COVID death, and I, you know, that to me was like, why, you know, why would it be so necessary to say that somebody had COVID when it was cancer that killed them, you know?
Yeah, well, like I said, there was the government stuffed it up. They gave extra funding incentives for people who were treating COVID patients and things like that. So but I heard that the UK government has really stuffed up the whole COVID response. But let's move off that. First of all, I just want to say I'm sorry to hear about the passing of your mother. It's always a significant point in your life, and I'm glad that she's no longer suffering. I had a friend who died of motor neurone disease 2 years ago this week, actually.
Right. So you probably don't know, but you understand the condition. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've lost my mother, and I can appreciate how that felt to you. So, but yeah, I'm sorry about that. But let's try and lift the tone a little bit.
Okay.
Let's go back to a video. This is from a creator you've probably never heard of called Way of the Dookie, and it's probably one of the most unusual things you'll ever see. He's got his own way of doing things, and which I find refreshing. I quite enjoy that. So have a look at what he's got on Seeing Too Far. That's the bad flirt idea. There he is.
So where are you right now?
Seriously? I'm at the same bloody place I was 6 months ago. Camped out on the shore of Lake Michigan with a bunch of idiots who were trying to prove the Earth is flat. You ask me this question every day, Mark, since we've been here. If you ask me again tomorrow, I'm gonna punch you in the fucking throat.
In reality, you are actually in a giant planetarium.
Oh, Jesus Christ, not this again. Okay, let's just cut the horse shit and show me this great proof of yours for a flat Earth.
It's clear as day. You see what I see. It's quite conclusive. It is what it is, people. It's not super looming. It's not a mirage. You see it because it is there.
That's it. That's your undeniable proof for a flat Earth. That once in a blue moon, under the right atmospheric conditions, you can see the Chicago skyline from the other side of Lake Michigan. You utter bloody numbskulls. All you've proven is refraction is a thing. I've sat here for weeks with so much sand working its way up my ass, I could open a glassworks factory. And this is the best you could offer me.
I got a hoverboard.
Nathan, you are the most annoying person I have ever met in my life. God, I hate you.
And then my brain coach told me the Earth is flat.
I just knew you were gonna say something fucking weird. I didn't know when it was gonna happen, but I knew it was gonna happen. Now I've lost my train of thought. Where the hell was I? Oh, that's right. And talking of ass, that's all any of us smell like at the moment. Because we all know there's no money in flat Earth. So reasonable accommodation was out of the question. The best we've got is Nathan's mobile home, the Farty Fiat. And we all have to cram into that tiny piece of shit when it starts pissing down. It smells like month-old wet bloody socks in there. And I'm pretty sure none of you had bathed weeks prior to this experiment. The only thing that was getting me through this whole nightmare was the radio. Luckily, they just happened to get some decent music out here. But that didn't last long, because 2 weeks in, the radio shits itself. And guess who elects themselves entertainment director after that happens?
You and me, we used to be together.
Shut the fuck up, Nathan. I hate that song. And you
Shut the
singing
fuck
it
up,
makes
Nathan.
me want to go for a swim in that lake with bricks in my pockets. You know what? I don't even know why the hell I'm here. Why did I even agree to this at all? Screw you guys, I'm going home. I hate all of you. Yes, that includes you too. You can stay here with these Muppets. I don't know, I don't care. Help Nathan with his Coriolis effect or some shit. Bye.
Wow, these little bigots are actually pretty ballsy.
that is so weird, isn't it? It's just a mask, and yet it adds so much to the video. And it's always good to hear "Shut the fuck up, Nathan," isn't it?
I think the mask detracts from it. To be fair, I heard it, but seeing him with the mask on, and I didn't get into it. I have to say, I would have got into it. I'd have got into it with it, seeing his face and seeing him verbalize it with some funny eye movements and stuff like that. That would have been a lot funnier to me.
We all have our own tastes, I guess.
Exactly.
You ever heard of Doomcock?
Who?
Okay, the answer is no.
Doomcock. I've got a Doomcock.
Okay. Doomcock is he's the future ruler of the Earth. He does reviews of movies and TV shows, and he's got like 300,000 followers. I think more than that now. He's getting closer to 500,000. And yeah, he puts himself forward as a supervillain who's trying to fight the mouse of the House of Mouse and that kind of thing. And he just has a mask. That's all he does. So it comes across quite well. So I guess, yeah, like I said, it's a matter of taste.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the mask is the way to go. Who knows? Maybe I should stick a mask on me. You never know. Maybe I could get 500,000 subscribers in a few weeks.
Well, that's why I wear a mask, because I look so much better with a mask on.
Ah, right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I suppose if you are ugly, you want to wear a mask.
Yes. People keep asking, on Facebook, I've got a picture of me with my mask on, and people say, "Oh, take that mask off." There's no virus, and I'm saying, I don't wear it for that. I wear it because I'm hideously ugly and I'm protecting you.
Oh God, it's like that Rey Mysterio thing, when they tried to pull his mask off, or all the other the Mexican wrestlers back in the early 2000s when they were trying to get their masks off and stuff. It's
all funny.
Demask them. Show your face.
Well, it's like Spider-Man too in that movie.
Yeah,
he was hanging upside down. She took her mask, half his mask off anyway.
But I'm surprised that it even pulled. How was she able to pull it off? He's supposed to be, it's supposed to be sticky, isn't he?
Yes. Is all that stickiness coming out of you? That's another line from the Spider-Man movie. When he mentioned about the smelled of old socks and it was Nathan's car, and I was thinking, yeah, those cars probably don't. Those socks don't smell of just feet. I suspect if it's Nathan's socks.
Oh God, and no, Riley's car. I mean, holy shit. I mean,
what's he drive?
What happened now? I can't remember. I think we drove to his home, and then he was gonna take us all the way to St. Bees or something. We were going somewhere anyway, and he was going to be driving. He said, "Oh, don't worry, come to mine. I'll drive." Like, so I turned up. Me and the missus turned up. Him and his missus in the front seat. Holy shit, this car! My God. I remember that they had this tractor in front or something, and it sprayed a lot of shit on the windscreen, and he couldn't even fucking see where he's going. Right? I mean, I couldn't see out the fucking windscreen, and he's driving along, and I said to him, "Are you gonna, fucking wipe those wipers or what?" And he's like, "Yeah, I will do, but we've got, the water thing doesn't work; it doesn't squirt out." I'm like, "What? Well, we'll slow down, fucking pull over and clean the fucking window." He says, No. So he got his fucking missus to get a bottle of water, hang out of the fucking car when it's driving, and fucking empty the water over the windscreen whilst he fucking washed it, with his wipers. No word of a lie. She's hanging out of the fucking passenger seat, reaching around to try and spray the fucking car because
she was stupid enough to do it.
Yeah, but he wouldn't stop. He refused to stop and pull over and clean the windscreen because he wanted to get there at a certain time. And the windscreen, you couldn't see out of it, mate. Honestly, I have no idea how he was able to drive along the road. He had I couldn't see from the back of the car. And I was imploring him to pull the fuck over. And he said, "Oh, no." And it took about a minute or so for us to fumble in a fucking bag and get out this bottle of water, reach out of the water flew off the top of the car because it was going so fucking fast that because the water, instead of hitting the windscreen, it just flipped over the car.
Oh, he has a Range Rover, doesn't he?
It wasn't the Range Rover that he was using, it was another car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I would say he was doing about 90. He was doing about 90 miles an hour when he couldn't see out of the window with two passengers in the back on British roads. Yeah,
and he wants his girlfriend, who presumably he loves, to lean out of the window at 90 miles an hour and pour water on the windscreen.
Yes, she had to wind the windscreen down, the window down, lean out of the fucking front, out of the car, and fucking pour water on the windscreen because he wouldn't stop.
Fucking hell. Well, later on, I was going to ask you this question: Anthony Riley, fuckwit or what? And I think you've just answered it.
Yeah, he's a fuckwit. He fell off the cliff. You've seen those images popping around of him, with his boobies out, and scratched finger and all that kind of stuff. Well, that was because he fell off the cliff. Funny story that. What had happened is we'd woke up in the morning to go and do some photography, and his wife's a photographer too, and she'd heard that there was this boat that got exposed down at the coast of St. Bees, on a real low tide. So she wanted to go down there and film it. So we all got up early. Riley got up. He was at the top of the cliff. I was with him. His missus was with him. So he said he was going to stay there. She wanted to go down to walk out to the beach to go and film this this boat that was, this wreck, that was being exposed. And I took a series of different images of this other boat that was out to sea from different elevations. So I started off at like 40 feet or so, and then I went all the way down. I ended up walking out to the shoreline basically to take this image of this boat. And so basically me and his missus met up at the end of the beach, about a third of a mile away from where he was at the top of the cliff. And the phone kept ringing. Her phone kept ringing. And it's like, it's Riley. And she's looking at the phone. She's going, it's fucking him ringing up. So I'm not fucking answering it. So this went on for about 15 minutes. About 15 minutes, because she wanted to just take photographs down the beach, and he's constantly fucking ringing her. And about 20 rings later, she finally answers. She's like, I've had fucking enough of this. I'm going to answer this now. So she answered the phone. And it's Tony down at the bottom of the cliff. Help, I've fallen off the cliff. What? I've fallen off the cliff. I'm lying in a heap at the bottom of the cliff. Come and help me. I'm injured. Fucking So he'd spent 15 minutes trying to fucking phone her from the bottom of this cliff in a heap, and she'd been ignoring him, and I was with her, and we were just rolling our eyes going, oh, it's only fucking Riley, never mind. And he'd fallen off the bottom of the cliff. So what had happened? There was this really
small way that he's getting paid back for being an asshole, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, what it was, he'd been at the top of this cliff, and he suddenly decided he wanted to go down to the beach, but rather than walk around to the steps, he thought, you know what, I can go down this hill, and yeah, I'll be able to navigate my way down there. But what happened is shitty trainers didn't have the grip, so he ended up, instead of, you know, going down nice and slowly, he ended up picking up speed. So he ends up running. He ends up running
down.
Yeah, he ends up running down this fucking cliff, only to realise that there's like a 12-foot drop at the end. so he got to the end of it, and he saw this. You know, it's just cut off there. It's just a drop. So he's like, so he said he tried to jump to try and hit this concrete patch. You know, because there's a patch of concrete there rather than stones. And he ended up headbutting the concrete stones and whacking his knee off of it and gashing all his belly and gashing his legs and his fingers and all sorts. You know, and he proper fucked himself up.
No brain, no pain, I guess.
Yeah. So then he's all crumpled. So when we met him, you know, when we were going out, where are you? You know, where I was, but I'm just at the bottom of the hill, you know. So we actually found him all crumpled up in a pile, crying his eyes out like a little girl. So about 15 minutes after that, she's calming him down. Oh, calm down, Riley. It's all right. You'll be okay, you know.
She called him Riley.
Well, I don't know if she called him Riley, but you know, we'll get you back. You know, you'll be all right. We'll get some bandages and some plasters. You'll be fine. You know. And then he's all right. Okay. So then he stands up. So then he's not so hurt. And then he's like, okay, what's wrong with me? Oh, I've got a cut here. I've got a gash there, graze here. And I was like, I had my camera with me, so I was like, okay, can I just take some pictures? Show us your injuries, Riley. so he
For
goes,
insurance claim, obviously. Yes.
Yeah. Just for poster. I just want to save these. Is don't show them anywhere. Don't show them anywhere. Don't do that. You know. And then it's right. Okay, I won't show them anywhere. It goes, right. Okay. So it says, show us your belly, right? Shows us his belly, right? Shows you your fingers, knees, all that kind of stuff. And I took about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 pictures or something. And yeah, that was a funny story with Riley. So yeah, dumb fuck of the year.
Pity he didn't hurt his face. It might have done some improvement. But anyway,
yeah,
he's not the smartest tool in the shed. Someone who is a little bit smarter is Skeptic Dank. You ever heard of him? He sort of hangs out with Irish Demon a fair bit.
To be fair, I mean, I'm still getting used to. Me and names, I still didn't know half the people in the Flat Earth community, or I might have met them, but forgot the name because I'm terrible with that. So, watch out.
That's all right. I'm not expecting you to know. I just asked if you did. That's all. He's sent in a video about what Flurfs think about the geometric horizon. So let's have a look at that.
Okay.
What's up, Homo sapiens? I am Skeptic Dank, and today I'm going to talk about a particularly dumb idea that flat earthers have, and that is that the geometric horizon is the maximum distance that you should be able to see the horizon. Even in cases when they acknowledge that refraction is a factor, they still seem to not be able to wrap their minds around the fact that this affects the distance to the apparent horizon. They just kind of blindly assert that, nope, that is the maximum distance that you should be able to see the horizon. Now, I'm sure most of you watching already understand that the reason we see further than the geometric horizon is because refraction causes light to bend around the curve of the Earth. So as part of a video I'm making for my own channel, I've prepared a demonstration of how you can bend light around an object using a temperature gradient. So as you can see here, I have a frozen bottle with a tape measure on the wall behind it, obscured by the geometric horizon of the frozen bottle. I also used a hot surface. In this case, it was a panini press. When I move that hot surface close to the bottle, the tape measure on the wall becomes visible from behind it. Now, this is because the temperature gradient between the two objects, due to the ideal gas law, also causes a pressure gradient, which causes refraction. During refraction, the light always bends towards the denser part of the medium, in this case, causing it to bend around the curvature of the bottle. Well, that's it from me. Big thank you to Huge Ars for putting this together, and thank you to everyone else who contributed. It's been fun. I hope you all have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the video.
Yes, it was a bit of fluff filming tactics there. It was a bit shaky and a bit out of focus at times, but I thought it was a good demonstration of how temperature affects refraction.
Well, yeah, I mean, that, to be fair, though, is something that the flat earthers will run with. They'll actually use his video against him and say that, you know, temperature is the only reason. It's nothing to do with Earth curvature. It's just temperature that can cause that. So,
well,
you know,
Earth curvature doesn't cause refraction, so that's easily debunked.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that from the flat earthers' perspective, they will just use that temperature gradient and say that you are seeing this effect because of this, because it's just temperature, and then they'll find some temperature gradient on a flat plane and try to model it that way. And that's what they'll do, and they'll twist it so that it matches their model or their beliefs in how light works. So that's how they'll do that. As for the 1.22, what is it? The horizon can only be 1.22 squared the observer height or something. Whatever.
It's pretty close. Oakley says it all the time. It makes me feel dirty whenever I hear it.
Yeah, but that 1.22 is not included of refraction. That is excluding refraction. That's just the actual geometric diameter. Yeah, exactly. So they're not talking about with refraction. And then you listen to other people making a similar argument, and it becomes quite clear then that they don't include refraction in any of their calculations. But when you address things like the auto level, for instance, and this is something that I've thought of recently, you've probably heard me talk about it. I don't know how much you've listened to me recently, but I have been on a few streams where I've spoken about this. And you know that if P then Q, if P then Q, then
Mother's tolerance,
So imagine this, right? So how much do you think the construction industry for tools and equipment is worth per year, roughly?
I wouldn't have a clue. I imagine it's probably close to $1 billion. It depends which country we're talking about, of course. You mean worldwide?
Worldwide.
Or the UK or
worldwide? All over the entire
it's
world.
Probably in billions then, I'd imagine.
Yeah, many multiple billions.
Yeah.
And probably very many millions and millions are used on equipment for surveyors, right? That would be another, the surveying equipment, auto levels, etc. That would also fall into that category. So, that the technology that we have now is very advanced. We can see great distances. We can be very accurate with a lot of things. And if we lived on a flat plane, so this is where the P then Q comes in. If we lived on a flat plane, then there would have been a auto level that was developed and built that could be accurate to a mile, right? If we lived on a flat plane. Because auto levels only have an accuracy at the very most of about 150 meters, which is why they have to do it every 50-meter increments, basically, which involves, it's very time consuming. It takes a lot of manpower, et cetera, like that. But if you had a tool that could actually auto level to a mile with today's technology on a flat plane, it shouldn't be too difficult. Then, so if P then Q, if Earth was flat, there would be a tool that was developed, an auto level that was developed that would be accurate to a mile. As there is no auto level that's been developed that's accurate to a mile, the Earth is not flat. But then their argument, funnily enough, it's refraction.
Yes, we call it out when it's convenient. Yeah.
Yes. So you've got them over a barrel one way, right, with the auto level, but then they sacrifice refraction for that. But then when you bring up the black swan, there is no refraction. And when you bring up, like you said, the 1.22 to the geometric horizon, there's no refraction in that either.
Yep, they choose what suits them at any particular point in time, and it's really frustrating. And that's why they do it, to frustrate us, so that we get angry at them, and it's not about the actual argument anymore, at least in their mind.
Yeah, so it's like sometimes they want to have it, sometimes they don't, and I think just trying to hold them and pin them down to is refraction real? And if so, when is it real?
Yeah, and as Skeptic Dank showed, it's when there's a temperature gradient. And I imagine where you live, because I've been to Blackpool and Southport. You're more Southport than Blackpool, aren't you? Something like that.
No,
anyway.
I'm Blackpool. Yeah, I'm Blackpool.
Oh, you're Blackpool, right? Yeah, because the oceans are very cold there compared to the land, at least in the summertime.
It's very cold.
Yeah, so you'd have quite a fair bit of temperature inversions around the place between the water and the atmosphere, or at least close to the water, because you've got that warm air being cooled down very rapidly against the water.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you can get the temperatures now online, so you can actually get the temperatures of the water and the temperature of the air, which is pretty good. I haven't looked at it for a while, so it's hard to say, but I do know that I checked around about a year ago, and that that data had just started to being put out there. Yeah. So it might be worth somebody looking into for that, because I can't recall what it was. Because
it's a difference between the pictures you've taken of boats going over the curve that Conspiracy Cats was so showed a lot on his channel, and the ones that Critical Think did, because Critical Think lives about 40 kilometers from me, and the water here is quite warm. It's usually, well, certainly in the summertime, it's around the 20 degree mark Celsius. And in the wintertime, it's probably maybe 15. So it's not a big range. And if it's 15, it's quite often between 15 and 20 degrees air temperature. So there's not a big temperature gradient. So there's not a lot of refraction. And that's why he was able to get such find a day and get such clear pictures like he did with little refraction in it. So yeah, so what I'm saying is where you were taking observations is probably not a good place to do it because of that the difference between the water and the air.
Well, quite possibly, and also the fact that the topography of the water underneath is very level and stable. There's no real great drop-offs there or anything like that that's going to churn the water up. So if you've got a relatively flat and motionless water with some stable air above it, then you're going to have optimum conditions for the bending of light around the curve. It's very simple. As soon as you start getting that churny effect, where the water's being sprayed up and you've got, channels of water that's creating bigger waves and stuff, that's disturbing the air above it, which is going to disturb what light gets to you because you're messing with the atmosphere just above the water. But on a very flat, motionless water, you'll get those great observations. Red Pill Philosophy was a great one. His water was the stillest water I've ever seen. The stillest. And he saw for 28 miles shore to shore.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And the water was like a mill pond. You've never seen anything like it in your entire life. This was the ocean, but it was totally motionless. Right? And thinking about it from a globe perspective now, then those conditions were just so supreme for allowing the light to bend around it, because the constant gradient would be the same all the way up, because there was no wind, there was no nothing. It was just a dead calm, and that's why he saw it.
Of course, some florists would say that's proof of that the Earth is flat and motionless because it was dead calm. They don't get conservation of motion, of course, of momentum, of course.
Yes, that's true.
Is that a concept you get now, and you didn't get before, or did you always get that?
Well,
it's perfectly like look at Level Earth Observer. It's perfectly reasonable from a globe point of view that the crane doesn't swing around because it's also moving with the Earth. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't seem to get that.
Well, for me, I would have argued for the flat Earth till my dying day if I hadn't seen the observation from Southport between Blackpool and the mountain, because at that point that was like the judge. If you needed a judge to make a decision on what was happening there, where I was filming these shore-to-shore observations, I was getting very similar observations to Red Pill. The water conditions were almost as good. They had the tiniest bit of ripple, very little, and you were seeing these great shore-to-shore observations. So from my perspective, yes, I would say, yeah, well, flat water, you know, flat Earth. But because this other observation popped up and it showed that there was definitive drop, you know, it wasn't even close. You know, half of that mountain is missing, and it's below the eye level of Blackpool Tower. So there's no question that is definitely dropping from the point of Blackpool Tower to the mountains. It is definitely dropping, which meant that the location I was filming in, because obviously that was between those 2 points, was also dropping too. So whenever I went down to the beach and saw those observations, it had to be refraction that I was seeing. You know, even as much as my eyesight was saying, no, you're just seeing shore to shore. The facts of the matter was that location is curving, and there's no getting around that. You know, if it's curving, then what was it then? Was it flat water? So I was seeing shore to shore because the ocean's flat, or was it flat water and I'm seeing shore to shore because the ocean's curved and it's refraction? Well, the judge was that observation from Southport.
Thanks, Bev.
Thanks, Bev. And definitely, you know, I mean, that proved everything. I mean, it proved everything to me. It proved refraction. It proved globe Earth. You know, you understand gravity then. You know, everything falls into place. What, you know, that whole picture just opened up everything because it proved everything that I was looking for. It proved refraction, which is something that I was pretty much against for the most part, you know, but it proved it to me.
Yeah. I remember you having plenty of videos about saying, "Oh, someone proved me looming" when you were filming it, and things like that. So you were really against refraction for a long time.
Yeah, and this was the judge and the jury. This showed to me that my location was curving, which meant by process of elimination that every time I went down to the beach and saw these shore-to-shore observations, I was seeing over the curvature of the Earth. It was being loomed up and round the curve. You know, I mean, there's no getting around that. And that was why it was such a hard thing for me to accept. But the evidence spoke for itself.
Well, you certainly accepted it because it was hard to believe it at first. It seemed like you were just playing a big joke on everyone, but you were certainly, you know, you did a couple of debates fairly soon after, and you really took apart people and, you know, Flurfs, that is, by defending your position. And you did. FDFE said that you were a better debunker than he was.
Yeah, that was a nice compliment actually, because he's pretty savage. But yeah, I mean, the good thing about, you know, having hosted those debates for as long as I did, you know, 15 months and more, and being a part of the Flat Earth debates before that, I know all the arguments from the Flat Earth. In fact, I was instrumental in a lot of their current arguments, funnily enough. So, as horrible as that sounds. Yeah, so because I was doing so much fucking research and just thinking out of the box all the time. It was, you know, because as a Flat Earther, you've got to try and counter the globe argument. The globe argument was, for instance, when you're talking about optics, the globe argument was refraction, right? So I accepted that. In fact, you'll see with my videos that I was always including refraction and stuff like that. Well, if we give you refraction, guess what? Well, you still got 100 feet of that we're seeing there that you shouldn't see, you know. So it was a case of I accepted the globe model that you have refraction, but I just wanted to counter that with something that would be equally as compelling, right? And I think I did a good job. So much so that all these idiots are running around saying this stuff now, but they can't say it as concisely as I did, sadly enough.
It's really obvious that they sort of follow people. They don't understand the arguments. They just want to have an argument for their side, and they just repeat whatever they hear. They parrot it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to go into back into Flurf mode and become a flat earther for a day and debate someone on optics, I could probably guarantee that I would win it, just because I have so many debunks of the globe model with observational proofs that could bring up everything that you could think of, from shoaling, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. Just don't put an observation at like 500 feet because I'll be stuffed then. But yeah, so I was living and breathing that. So people like Flatzoid that are out there now talking about optics and and things like that. This guy hasn't got a fucking clue. I mean, he's like, he's not even 10% of the researcher I was, or 10%. He doesn't even understand 10% of what I forgot, right? That's as good as they have currently. And I know that sounds like I'm being a bit harsh, but it's the truth, because
anyone watches his videos knows you're saying the truth.
So with the optics side of things, I really understood that, and I want to kind of deconstruct my own arguments now, being back on the globe, which is why I have to accept that when I thought we were seeing these inferior mirages and convinced all of the debaters, and including the Globers, that what we were seeing at the horizon was an inferior mirage, I don't actually think it was. I think it was the curvature of the Earth. It was a reflection. It's a reflection, not an inferior mirage. It just looks like an inferior mirage. We just get confused with it, which is why I think that these inferior mirages are probably localized and not very, how can I explain it? The localized, but the phenomena of seeing a boat go out to the line where you expect the Earth curvature to start, and then you suddenly see an inferior mirage happen in that location. That can't be a coincidence. That has to be a reflection off the curvature. It has to be.
Well, the chat's going quiet for some reason. I'm not sure. Maybe we're just talking about things that they don't want to hear.
Yeah, I think we've sent them all to bed. I think everyone's buggered off.
I think in the Europe and the UK, it's probably getting a bit late. And in the US, it's just the evening. And of course, it's early morning here in Australia. We've got one more video to show, and it's from the guy who last posted in the chat, "Science is not the devil." And he's got a magic trick from the ISS. Do you believe in space? Is it all faked in space?
And I never denied space. That was one thing. When I say I was different from the rest of the flat earthers, I never denied space at all.
All right, so let's have a look at this one.
This is Flat Earth Warrior and his video Hollywood in Space, Epic Fail of Weightlessness on ISS with Richard Garriott and Pocket of Gravity.
Some of you may be familiar with the old experiment about the hammer and the feather. Well, in this case, our feather will be played here by this four of spades. And you may expect everything up here in microgravity to float, because most everything does float. However, sometimes something a little different happens. Sometimes you just might find a little pocket of gravity.
I don't actually know what Flat Earth Warrior thinks he's disproving. Is it the ISS, gravity? Who knows? Anyway, he's left us his source, so let's go and check it out and see what's going on there. Let's start by taking a look at another video by Richard.
One of the challenges of doing magic in space.
Did he just say magic? Like a parlor trick or an illusion?
One of the challenges of doing magic in space is to figure out how to take advantage of the fact that we're here in microgravity, but not make the trick meaningless. For example, simply making an object levitate is a little too easy, since everything floats up here.
Richard just admitted that he was doing magic tricks. He said everything floats. Why did the card fall if everything floats? Shall we see if we can find some evidence that there's a magic trick going on here? Let's see the blooper reel Richard posted on the same website. Hold on, let's see that again. What did Richard just do with his left hand? It looks to me like he's manipulating a fine thread attached to a playing card, perhaps to facilitate something pulling it downwards later. Oh, harness, quick, cut. Oh, it's only the harness they use to strap themselves down so that they can exercise. It's okay, panic over. Flat Earth Warrior thinks he's debunking the globe by debunking the ISS, but all he's done is fall for a parlor trick and tried to present it to us as evidence. Nice try, Flat Earth Warrior. Nice try.
Hang on, I've just realised I've had my mic off. Oh, it said it so well too. Thank you to Science is Not the Devil for that video, and thank you to all the contributors to today's live stream. The links to their channels are in the description of this video, and as is the link to Flurspective, which is Randy's channel. Go check it out. He's very funny, and it's amazing how well he debunks Flat Earth. It's really good. You got anything coming up soon, Randy?
I got loads of stuff coming up. In about a week's time or so, I'm going to be, no longer decorating. So let's say 8 or 9 days from now. So that'll be the end of the journey for me on as a decorator after 31 years. So hanging up the old boots with that because of my hernia. I did the operation in, I think it was October of last year, but I don't know, about 2 months ago, I started feeling it and ripping and tearing, and yeah, not nice. So I'm not going through that operation again. So I'm giving it up, and I will be devoting my time to YouTube. So you'll be expecting a lot of content coming out. I've got a load of stuff coming up. The comment debunkers, I think, is quite good. Have you seen that before?
No, we can play it if you want.
No, it's all good. It's basically I just go to a video. Let's say, I don't know. Let's just say Jaredism put a video out, and somebody left a comment there that was really great against his video, but was completely ignored, by Jared. Jared completely ignored it. So
he ignores most, yeah.
So what I would do is I would create a video around a bunch of comments on that subject that he's completely ignored. So I'll hold his toes to the fire and say, hey, this particular commenter here, Joe Blogs here said this, and they made a really good point, and you just ignored it. It's about time you address it.
But if he addresses it, then he'll be shown to be wrong. He doesn't want that.
But that's the point.
Yes. Well, that's the point of all our debunking videos, really, is to point out to them what the things that they refuse to acknowledge. So.
Yeah, but the comment debunkers, I think, gives a little hope that the people out there that just leave a comment rather than have a YouTube channel but know the stuff are actually having their work recognized, by somebody actually saying, actually, that's a fucking good argument. Why has that been ignored? Why has that just been pushed to one side? Or, why has that got a lot of trolls after it? Because it's it's a killer argument, and repeating it verbatim back to the originator of the video and saying, don't you think you should address this?
Yeah.
So
like Wally with Namibia and Level Earth Observer. Lots of people say Namibia to him a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got that coming up.
Funny you mentioned Jeranism. I've got a picture of him here.
Get out of it. That's not Jeranism.
Well, it's a sign that he might have.
I know more than the scientists, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the way it's spelled too.
So I've got comment debunkers coming up. More of that. I've also got fact checking Flat Earth, which is another series that I'm starting, which is going to be, fact checking Flat Earth. All the claims made by Flat Earth. Does it match up to science? So it might only be a 5 or 6 minute video. I don't know how long I'm going to make them yet, but it's literally just going to be titled that fact checking Flat Earth, whatever it could be, Coriolis or something, and being very serious about it. So there's no comedy with that, just really factual, debunking of the yeah. And then obviously I've got the skits with Ranty, the flat earther, the old, the twin brother. So that should be quite enjoyable to do stuff like that. And last, I've got the kitchen science stuff as well. That's still quite popular. So I love doing that. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
So you've got a twin brother and you're the evil twin? Or is he the evil twin?
I guess from his perspective, I would be the evil twin. But from my perspective, he would be the evil twin. I guess it's up to the audience to decide which one's evil and which one's not.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I saw that video of you spent a day with cats, and you're a pretty damn good pool player.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm amazed you didn't win, to be honest. I mean, it was just bad luck, really.
Yeah, I suppose, I still had the balls fall, what can you say?
Cats is no slouch either. So, he was a worthy opponent, but you were certainly, you just demonstrated more skill, put it that way.
Yeah, I would like to think so. What can I say? He is a very good player, and I'm also not bad. I could have. In fact, I played at a very, very high standard at one point, and it's been so long since I picked it. But it was nice to actually get out there and have a game and just knock the cobwebs off. I was only playing about 50% of my ability, probably, but I think we're going to have a rematch. I think we're definitely going to get that. Maybe live stream it. I think that might.
Why
be
not?
worth
It was entertaining, that's for sure. Although it was edited, of course, so maybe there's a lot in the middle. But it's a bit like, in the UK, playing pool is sort of like something everyone does because everyone goes to the pub and there's always a pool table and things like that. It's a bit like in the days of the 100 Years' War, everyone had to learn how to fire a bow and arrow. So these days, everyone has to learn how to play pool, and you play it to a high standard as a result.
Oh God, no, not really.
I mean, compared to Aussies, so we used to have
maybe
that culture. We don't anymore, really. So,
well, maybe compared to other countries, but here in the UK, I mean, I've played for many pool teams, and I've seen different caliber of players, and Cats is up there with, he's top tier of player, and I was top tier too. So the two of us actually getting, the build up to this was like, yeah, I can play a bit. I can play a bit. Yeah. Well, I was really good. Yeah. Well, I'm really good. So then we met up and we actually showed that we were, even though we hadn't played for such a long time, it was nice to actually just, have a bash around. But I could tell immediately that he was, he was a lot better than the vast majority of pool players that you will see in a pub. So not everybody's got the. I used to hustle it. I used to be a hustler. I could beat people with my left hand. And that's super bad.
pretty sure you could beat me. I've played a bit of pool in my time, but I don't have a table or anything like that. I've never been able to practice every day. I just sort of do it maybe twice a year or something. So yeah, well, if I sink a ball, it's an amazing event because it happens so rarely.
Well, what happened? I was 17 or so, or 18, I can't remember now. And I was window cleaning up in Fleetwood, and I had a round up there. And every Saturday I would go into the pub, and because it was Saturday was collect day, so I'd go around and I'd collect the monies in and stuff, and then I'd nip to the pub, and then I'd hang around in the pub for 2 or 3 hours, and I'd go and do some more collects, and I'd come home. So those 2 or 3 hours that I was in the pub, there was this guy that was in there always every Saturday, and he said to me, "Oh, do you fancy a game of snooker?" Right? So yeah, okay. And he beat me every time, and he always seemed to just beat me. It was always for a pint as well. So I ended up, every Saturday I was going in there and I was losing like 5 pints to him or something ridiculous. And he always just seemed to beat me at the very end. And I wasn't very good. I mean, I was lucky if I could get a couple of balls one after the other. So I just had enough, this one time I was like, all right, I'm not going in there again. After about 6 months of this happening, I thought, I'm not going in there again. I'm going to go and I'm going to learn how to play snooker. So I went to Q's on on the seafront of Blackpool, and I just turned up there every day for a month, and I would sit in there for 4 hours at night time, just playing snooker constantly against myself, and just just that was it, you know, for a whole month. I went back. I actually went in on the Saturday. He's like, oh, I haven't seen you for a while. I said, yeah, no problem. Had him 2 games, whooped his ass both times. You know, I mean, I think I beat him by about 40 or 50 points each game. And after the second game, I said to him, ready for another one? You know, ready for another pint? And he's going, no. And he wouldn't play me again. He wouldn't play me again.
Payback is sweet.
So he hustled me for 6 months, taking 5 pints each time out of me for 6 months. And then I win 2 games off of him. So I win 2 pints off of him. And then he never, ever played me again after that. Ever. Right, so I never even got close. Yeah. So, but it taught me a valuable lesson about hustling. It taught me a valuable lesson about how to play snooker, obviously, because I got better at it. And then I became very good at snooker, and then I moved on to pool after that because I got so handicapped on the snooker, it's ridiculous. So I was playing 10 Red Bull snooker, so on a bastard size table, sort of like between a 3/4 and a full size table. I think it's 107 is the maximum break you can get, as opposed to 147 on a full size. And so if the maximum break you can get is 107, my handicap on the first season, when you first start, you get a plus 28 handicap, right? Which meant I got 28 points on the board, and then I was playing somebody else. So if they were off 14 or 20 or 30 or 40, they would get their points put on, and then you play each other. So it's handicapped. You know, better players get a worse score. So after the first season, I didn't lose a game, right? I won every single game. And the second season, they put me off minus 14. So I was off 28 the first season. Second season, I was off minus 14. And they put me up against players that had been fiddling their handicaps. You know, they were losing the game on purpose to keep the handicap score high. So I was playing guys that were off like 44. Right.
So you were being honest, and
they had 44. I had minus 14. So they had a 58-point head start on me on a maximum score of 107. So they had 58 points, and they were bloody good players as well. You know, they could get a 24 break, no problem, right? I mean, it's unheard of. You know, you can't even, you know, you wouldn't even expect, you know, players off 20 to get a 24 break or whatever. But these guys were just knocking them in for fun. You know, then putting me in a snooker, and then it's game over. I've got no chance of winning. So I think I only won maybe 10 games that second season, and I lost ridiculous amount. I lost about 18 games or something, and I got so fucked off with it. I thought, I can't play against this. You know, this is
at least your handicap had come back.
Well, it would have done, but I just thought this is so retarded. You know, I'm going to play pool instead, because pool had bigger pockets and smaller balls, and it was just so easy to pot them. So
yes, snooker has that extra skill to it, doesn't it? I think I'm going to have to call it there. I think that I've got corgis that need to be fed.
No worries. I need a wee as well.
Yes, and I'm very grateful that you came on tonight. I thank you for being on the show. It's been great to have a chat with you. We've never really spoken before, and I'm hoping that we can get to do that another time at some point.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, then. Thank you once again. Thank you to all the contributors for this video. Again, the links are in the description. And I shall see you in the next video.
So there's nothing left to do but cue the corgi.
You're despicable.